this gospel, the end of the gospel, reminds me of something that Bishop Sheen said. He was talking about how a particular psychologist had looked at the diabolic. And he was looking at the diabolic and noticed that there were three things that he saw in the diabolic within these patients that he was dealing with. One was that there was this love of violence. Two was there was this love of nudity or the sexuality. And then the third was that there was this divided mind, this split personality. And of course then Bishop Sheen then focuses and says, well, we look and we see this in this scripture passage where we have Legion, where he is naked, he is violent, he cuts himself with rocks, he can't be held bound by chains, and he says, my name is Legion, for we are many. My name, for we. And so he sees those three things. But he says, but what does the scripture, what does Jesus say are the signs of the demonic? And we see that in the temptations of Christ, we see, turn these stones into bread, jump from this parapet of the temple, and bow down and worship me. And he says, they are shortcuts from the cross. Shortcuts from the cross. And so when Peter then says, no, you shall not go to the cross, you shall not die, he says, get behind me, Satan. Why? Because he's trying to tell him to take a shortcut from the cross. And I think about in our culture today, which is so focused on comfort, and there's nothing wrong with comfort in itself, but it seeks to keep us from embracing the cross. And everyone's got to suffer. I mean, it's just part of life. And so if we don't accept that reality that there is the cross for all of us, then what do? We have this expectation then that it shouldn't be there. We get resentful of it and we reject the cross. We look for some shortcut away from the cross. Not that any of us really love the cross, I'm not saying that, but we do recognize, okay, Satan makes it seem in our lives that we don't have to have the cross. We don't have to follow Christ to the cross. The suffering that we have to endure in this life, he says, no, you don't have to suffer that. Drown it out with this. Cover it over with that. Ignore it by this. Avoid it by that. Whether it be drugs and alcohol, whether it be other forms of pleasure, whether it be just focusing in on screen time. We try to avoid the cross and it ends up leaving us empty because we're not drawing close to the Lord. What are the areas where Satan tempts us away from the cross? May we always listen not for the voice of the evil one, but for the voice of the Good Shepherd. May we listen for his voice and ask him for that grace, that strength, that courage we need to embrace the cross when it is given to us, so that we may not run from Christ, but be running to his heart.